Told Clark had a girlfriend who is a Lane student. Clark is not, but that could explain why he was on campus yesterday evening. However, officers will not say if that's the case. They also say at this point they have no indication that the shooting is gang related. Though police say Clark was involved in a fist fight with another man before the spray of gunfire into the crowd of people gathered around them.
It certainly heightens our concern because there was the potential for so many innocent bystanders to have been shot. And so we're extremely concerned about that, and our focus is to catch the people responsible.
Investigators say their lack of information is frustrating, especially since there was a large crowd involved. A reward of up to $1,000 is being offered by Crime Stoppers. Just call 424-TIPS.
Jackson police tell us the boy rode his bicycle into the street in front of a driver around 6 this evening. Even though the person behind the wheel slammed on the brakes, the child was hit by the truck, but not seriously hurt. Officers say they don't expect any charges to be filed.
Just before 7:30 near Hayes and Lexington, Jackson police say the victim, a young black man, was shot in the parking lot of a local business and collapsed in the street. Investigators say he was pronounced dead just after 8 o'clock. They have not released his name nor his age. The suspect description is very vague, but witnesses told police he was a black man with a slim build and was wearing a dark hoodie.
This was Julie Williamson before her car accident in 2005 left her paralyzed. And this is Williamson now. After numerous stints in and out of hospitals and nursing homes, put her on a ventilator.
You know, you're just a phone call away. For me, I miss the touch of my mother's hand, the hugs my kids give me.
In April of this year, Julie was allowed to come home to her mother, Janelle Bearden's house, where a nurse takes care of her for 24 hours, all thanks to TennCare.
When I came home this time, you know, the social workers were sure, the doctors were sure, TennCare was sure.
But Bearden says on May 29th, a woman with TennCare called and said Julie would no longer be able to be cared for because she's not institutionalized. The nurses had to be out by June 3rd, and Julie had to go to a nursing home out of state and away from her 3 boys.
I've spent 2 weeks on the phone, sometimes 8 hours a day or more.
And they are still asking me, you know, are you going to have to, how far is it going to have to be this time?
TennCare has now extended Julie's coverage until June 29th, and during that time, the board will interview Julie's mother to see if they can grant her an appeal. Until then, Julie and her mom both vow to keep up the fight to keep Julie home.
That's the change in her. I mean, she's beginning to look like Julie again. It's unreal, just from the care she's getting and being at home.
I don't know what kind of big brown bear it's going to take.
Lauren Linney, ABC 7 Eyewitness. Many drivers say they check their surroundings if they get pulled over.
Well, I just want to make sure it's a police officer. You know, you got to be cautious today. You know, it's kind of scary.
Sadly, people posing as police officers is nothing new, says Sergeant Johnny Gines.
It gives us all a black eye, and we just have to try to do our best, the ones that are left behind, that are doing the right thing.
Sergeant Gines reminds viewers if it's late at night and you're alone and see blue lights behind you, always try to find a public area to stop.
I usually won't stop until I get to a lighted area, and I have my cell phone on hand.
I think it's any kind of suspicious situation at all. If you do go ahead and stop, you know, we're so conditioned that when we see blue lights, most of the time we're going to pull over, that if you do that, then and still have a little suspicion, just roll down your window maybe an inch or two where you can at least converse with the person.
Sergeant Gines says most officers will be understanding.
If it was one of my loved ones or friends, I would want them to go take the risk on getting a ticket if it was legitimate rather than something bad happening.
Even in the daylight, authorities say to be cautious, especially if something doesn't feel right.
I don't want to break the law. You know, I want to do the right thing and pull over, because what if he says, well, why didn't you pull over? But I think my life is more valuable.
So that we can make this happen. so that we can keep the doors open at St. Jude, so that we can find cures.
Help those children who need you to be a partner in hope.
St. Jude doesn't charge a dime to the patients. If their insurance can't cover it, they don't get charged. They never see a bill from St. Jude.
Tashiana's doing really, really well. She was here on the air with us a little bit earlier, but she, $30 a month.
At St. Jude, by becoming a partner in hope, the monthly pledge $30.
It takes $1.7 million a day to run St. Jude.
We keep those doors open and we keep the research going at St. Jude, and to be a small part, we're just a small part of a bigger, something that's much bigger than all of us, but it's a significant part, and it is a well appreciated part.
Even though we lost our son, St. Jude provided us with 2.5 years more with him than we were supposed to have. Those 2.5 years to us are priceless.
Teresa Mays reacts to husband Adam's suicide through her attorney, Shauna Johnson.
She really hasn't said much about it. She was more concerned about the two young ladies.
A concern Mary Frances Mays' attorney says she shares.
When she found out that her son was killed, or killed himself, her first reaction was, are the girls okay?
Police say Mary Frances Mays confined 12-year-old Alexandria and 8-year-old Kalia after the girls arrived with Adam in Union County, Mississippi.
Well, she's in shock right now, obviously.
Shocked but relieved. Now that Adam Mays is dead, defense attorney Terry Dykes says that even behind bars, his client Mary Frances is feeling safe for the first time in years.
Most people are anxious about making their bond and getting out of jail, but in her case, she's actually relieved, if you can imagine.
Speaking through her attorney, relieved to be free from abuse.
It seems to be developing as a defense that she may have been the victim of domestic abuse herself, maybe a battered mother defense, possibly.
A defense Dykes says reflects what Mary Frances Mays is feeling.
Because, for the last 25 years, she's been scared of her son, and even though the bunks here are steel and not very comfortable, she is resting comfortably, as she says, for the first time in 25 years.
As for Teresa Mays,
she's okay.
All right, Brad, I'm on the scene at the Dollar General in Friendship, and right now, 10 different law enforcement agencies on the scene, including Sarkey County Sheriff, Alamo PD, the Friendship PD, and at the moment, all we know is one Friendship officer was shot by the armed robber, and we do not know his condition. He has been taken to a local hospital with unknown conditions. They are in, at the moment, the officers are out looking for this armed robber around the area. I've seen multiple officers over at behind the Exxon, which is right next door to the Dollar General. It happened around 9 o'clock tonight, and it was an armed robbery at the Dollar General, and the officers are right now basically in a manhunt for this suspect. They have not been able to give us much detail. If we have any more information, I will let y'all know, but Brad, back to you.
Okay, Ryan, thank you.
Came out for the 17th annual event organized by members of the Area American Cancer Society in recognition of breast cancer awareness. A silent auction was also held where those in attendance could bid on everything from Delta airline tickets to Tennessee Titans and Vols tickets. Organizers tell us tonight's event is about more than just a good time.
We're just trying to encourage them, to do their monthly breast exams, to go to their yearly checkups at their doctor, to eat healthy, just to take that 5 minutes a day where they really think about themselves, or they, exercise, are they doing what they need to do to have more birthdays.
4 of tonight's honorary chair members are also breast cancer survivors.
Witnesses, the wreck happened a little after 5 involving a car and an SUV. They say Martin, who was the driver of the car, was traveling west when he apparently lost control and crashed into a utility pole. Witnesses say the driver of the SUV swerved to miss the car, plowing through the yard of a nearby homeowner. Luckily, no one was injured. Utility crews are still on the scene repairing the downed utility pole. About a small tree either. This is the massive tree that fell on Boone Lane tonight just before 9 o'clock. Witnesses say a small child and at least one adult were inside the vehicle when the tree came down on the hood of the car. No one appeared to be seriously hurt, but rescue workers say it could have been a different story if the tree had fallen 1 second later. Boone Lane remains closed tonight as